Once again I get to greet you. It's been quite a while. What a ride we've
Mingalaba,
Mingalaba.
ni hao.
你好。
That's the extent of my language. Okay. All right, so now let's start off with the easy questions. And I know that both of you are avid readers. What's the book that changed your life?
So Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. It is a very old book published in 1943. It's a book about value, how value define different people, how does value define me, define you. So values are very important in Atlas. So that is why we build purpose into what we do and why we do it.
All right, Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. What about you? What's the book that changed your life?
Well, I mean, there are plenty, but one of them will be like 0 to 1.
Ah.
0 to 1 let me rethink my business a lot more. And I usually refer back to the book every time I face different challenges. So, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's get into movies. We started off with The Matrix. What's your favorite movie about money?
Wow, okay, so, well, so there is one movie, I don't remember the title, but where you can have your watch represent your value, and you pay everything by using watch, and it also is your life. So that really hit me in the heart, and then I was like, okay, probably in the future that could be something similar to what we have been living.
Right, okay, we already used the watch to pay, right? But this is extending. So it sounds like a Black Mirror kind of episode. What about you, Mary? What's your favorite movie about flying?
Top Gun.
Top Gun Maverick. Okay, all right. So did you know that, bit of an aside, Aung is actually a certified Thai Air Force pilot, right? And he actually flies missions transporting human organs for transplant. So that's an amazing hobby that he has, by the way. So it's more than a hobby. But let's get into both their businesses, and that's about money and flying. All right. So Mary, I mean, in the last investors panel, we talked a lot, the investors were talking about not creating unicorns or rhinos, right? But creating value, and you spoke about value in the start. So you were raised in Xi'an. I find your background interesting. You were raised in Xi'an. You did your first flight startup, Wing On Travel, in 2004, and then the second Aslan in 2012. You sold to Alibaba in 2014, and then in 2019 you emerged to start Atlas. So what's the value that you want to create for the industry with Atlas?
Oh, that's a good question, Siew. So I think today, let's talk about the industry, travel industry. What exactly the intention of the travel industry? It's connect with people, connect with the different kind of places, culture, and the religion. But it seems like we have forgotten why we are here and what we are doing. We try to build some standardized, data-driven, and less fun industry.
Okay.
That is why, and I'm sitting here to build some value to the industry.
Okay,
More
and
fun.
And you want to make it much more fun. Okay.
Yes.
So Aung, interesting story as well, grew up in Yangon, which is going through a terrible time. But you put yourself through computer programming school by working as a hotel butler. We were talking about the frontline workers. He was earning $7 a month. And then you started 2C2P in Thailand in 2003, 5 days after your son was born. So was he the motivation to start 2C2P?
Absolutely. So that was the only motivation, and I did not know anything about how to run a business except writing good code. And 20 years fast forward, here we are.
Right, so you're writing good code, but how did you get into the payments business, like why payments? Clearly you have something to do about payments because you talked about the watch and payments as well, so it's in your blood.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back, at first I wanted to write mobile games, and at the time, 2003, Nokia Series 20 was the mobile phones we were using. So we don't have a delivery mechanism to write games. So 6 months into game development, I realized that I will not be able to sell my games through different kinds of portals. So I have to find a way, and eventually, a bank told me that they needed a piece of software to authenticate the cardholder every time they buy something online. So I wrote that and licensed to the bank the rest is the history of 2C2P.
All right. So you had the bank to thank for then. Okay.
That's right.
So Mary, Atlas is 3 years old, and Atlas' intention is to create. I know you want to bring fun into it, but at its heart, it's a B2B distribution and retailing platform for low-cost airlines, so that travel agents, whether they are online or offline, can sell them easily to consumers, right? Why do low-cost airlines at this stage need travel agents to sell them? I mean, most of them are going direct now, aren't they?
Yeah.
So why do they still need travel agents to sell them?
Yeah, I see the trends and I agree. If there's a little value from travel agency to distribute low-cost carriers' contents, that's the result. But let's look at the low-cost carriers. So low-cost carriers is similar like other airlines. They're regional, so they're popular in their region, but most of people outside of the region, they don't know them. So today, if I say there are 7 low-cost carriers in Japan, most of us don't know that. So that's one fact. The second thing is, let's come back to the consumer. So what consumer exactly want? Consumer wants fair comparison. Consumer wants comparison. Not only compare the price, but also airport location, departure and arrival time. It needs someone to satisfy the consumer, not only about airlines. And coming back to why today low-cost carriers, they're a huge challenge for them to distribute because of the bundling fare and the pricing structure. It makes the distribution more difficult. So that is why Atlas is here to simplify the complexities of the bundling fare and price structure and give the access to the travel agencies to easily sell more and better to satisfy the consumers.
So simplify the complexity, which I'm sure that you also thought about, right? Because you started off as a payment for really e-commerce companies, and then you got into travel, and your first travel client was actually Nok Air in 2007. And I understand you now have more than 20 airlines using your platform, and travel is a key component of your revenues now, right? How has this changed post-pandemic? Have you seen an acceleration by the travel industry now to come and adopt your payments platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So right before the pandemic, we were very worried because more than half of our revenue derives from the travel industry. Airlines is most of it, and obviously online travel agents included. And throughout the pandemic, we see nearly zero traffic in travel volume. And of course, luckily, we can continue to sustain our business through different other industry. Now, we are seeing nearly 100% volume back online, especially in domestic travels. So in Thailand, we are seeing 90% and more load factor in the airline industry, and we are more than happy to serve these airlines and continue to drive their revenue. And we became a part of their new revenue stream, especially now they are selling more and more direct, and I'm sure they are selling through distribution channel as well, but they are selling more direct, and then we see that they are now getting back to normal situation.
So I wanted to put the two of you together in a panel because I thought it was interesting that your job is really to enable airlines to try and sell direct as much as possible, right? Because you're enabling a really important part, and her job is really, getting travel agents to sell airlines. So, but clearly there is a need for you two to work together. And Mary told me that really, aggregating flights, building flight tech, that's not new to you. You've done it for ages, so you're a veteran. But you told me that payments is your biggest pain point today. Yeah. So how can a company like 2C2P ease that pain for you?
So I think payment is a high risk, especially if we work with a specialized payment solution provider. So look at payment in travel industry, credit default and fraud. It's a huge challenge and more higher than other industry. And combine that with a complexity of cross-border payments, fragmented regulations, and FX. So it's very important and fundamental for Atlas to look for and work with a partner like 2C2P who has a lot of knowledge in travel industry. So I think 2C2P is a team who has established a long relationship with the airlines, who specialized on air industry. So that's one. By the way, the most important things what I see is 2C, 2P, and the Atlas connect us. It's the entrepreneurial spirit, and I can see 2C, 2P and innovation, problem solver.
Right. It's interesting because also the investors were saying, about exit with the founders. I think it was Jungle Ventures, right? That was their strategy, was that to exit with the founder. And we're going to talk about your exit later on, but it is an exit with the founder, still in place. So, Aung, I think you got called into Nok Air to solve their problem of fraud, if I understand, and that's how you sort of got into the door of Nok. So she just basically raised fraud as a big issue. But what is the biggest pain point you think now yet to be solved in travel payments? Because you cover so many industries, right, compared to other verticals like e-commerce.
Yeah, I mean, cross-border payment is one key issue. So going back to serving airline to receive direct booking, which is true, but the other remaining bookings coming from partners and also for the cargo is still coming from a lot of travel agents and cargo agents. And if you extend that internationally, so yes, domestically it can be directly from the passengers. As soon as you want to sell abroad, then we are talking about going through partnership and then fixing supplier payment and payment methods from a different kinds of consumer or from a different level of the wealth pyramid. So that's where we are helping airlines to not only get the booking from the customers, but also pay to their suppliers.
Suppliers as well. So
Yes.
yeah, it's increasingly complex actually.
That's
The
right.
more the technology has evolved, actually, it's becoming, as Eric I think mentioned earlier from Klook, he said that one of the glitch that he would like to fix is actually currency exchanging,
Yes.
currency payments.
It's still very, very expensive, and like Mary is connecting all the budget airlines together, but these budget airlines are not talking to one another directly yet, and probably talking through her platform. And what she needs next is to help provide settlement and payment together with her platform, so that will really add additional value, and
Okay.
that's what this partnership is all about.
Okay, so now let's look at the market space. I mean, we talked about the opportunity, but let's look at the size of the market. And Mary, I think you prepared us 3 slides on the low-cost segment. So if we can have the slides, please.
Yes, so look at the first slide. So globally, low-cost carriers during pandemic performs quite well. Global LCC seat capacity growth maintained 60%, but other non-low-cost carriers only has 40%. So low-cost carriers of worldwide capacity today and September has 47% of the total flights market. Next slide, please. But the great stories here today, we can see, unfortunately, Asia growth lags behind the global market. So Asia, just like we discussed, so 2019 in Asia, especially in Asia region, and 56% of flights driven by low-cost carriers. But look at today, Asian LCC seat capacity growth only 25%. And 2020, low-cost carrier in Asia region only has 39%. Until today, it's 41%. It's still behind of the pre-pandemic. Next slide, please. So the number of low-cost carriers operating performs really well than non-low-cost carriers. It maintained 5% growth, but look at other airlines. It's dropped down, still dropped down. But same, Asia plays only 1% growth. And today, 2020, I guess 2019, and whole global low-cost carriers, and 43% were Asian. And 2021, only 39% low-cost carriers were Asian, and today, 27, still very low.
So, we will clearly catch up, all right?
Yes.
So, let's go to the digital payments market, and this is the chart that you shared with us on. I mean, the opportunity is massive. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, as indicated on the chart here, the market itself is growing rapidly from 30 to 50% year on year. And this is going to continue to grow the same way, and we don't see it stopping.
Right.
And if you compare Southeast Asia e-commerce adoption versus US, Europe, and including China, we are still far behind. So therefore, the growth will continue on until like 2030.
Yeah, look at that. Digital payments to account for 91% of transactions by 2025. That's like 3 years from now. So
Absolutely.
amazing. Okay, so let's get to the future then. I mean, we talked Web3. We talked through all the sessions. Will Web3 improve or hinder payments?
I believe Web3 will give more freedom to the consumer. So we don't know what exactly Web3 is yet. So nearly all the speakers in the morning will define it differently. And I think everyone in the audience will define Web3 differently as well. So we are at the very beginning of this new trend. But what we believe is that customer will own the experience much more. And in turn, they will be owning the way they want to pay and the payment experience they want to have. And of course, today, people are always worry every time they enter credit card numbers, and banks are prompting OTP left and right. This has to eventually go away, and we are trying, the industry itself is trying to make it as frictionless as possible, but we are not there yet. But eventually with Web3, I think frictionless can probably be introduced.
Right. So every middleman, as Web3 evolves, as you say, what we see now is not what it will be. So every middleman, everybody that's in the value chain now will really have to think about how they find new value in this changing, including you, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
We are one of the middlemen, by all means. And if we don't add value with this new technology trend, we will become obsolete. And we are fully aware of that. And we are using all the effort we could to see where we can add extra value so that we can continue to be relevant.
Right. And Mary, I know you're very excited about Web3. And in Singapore right now, there is a huge Web3 community from China actually forming in Singapore. They're all sort of converging here. So how do you feel Web3 will transform flight distribution and the travel agent's role within the ecosystem?
So in the past years, until now, travel is a largest OTA-dominate industry, and because they have a lot of money to invest in technology, and because of that, and all of us here from OTA background, we know KPI-driven. We have to do standardized products and data-driven, and just like I said, less fun. But Web3 will offer, I strongly believe there's a possibility for Web3 to change that, to bring open sourcing technology, to open the platform to small and middle-sized agencies, and be effectively, efficiently to access into these tools they really need. And Atlas would really like to be this Web3-driven technology platform in the future.
Okay, so an open platform. Actually,
Yes.
it's interesting, a lot of talk about open platform, even in Fritz talk, right, where he talked about how the data from the James Webb telescope in a year will actually be made available to all high school students to play with and to experiment with, and surely maybe travel can get to that space as well. All right, so on the one hand, we have Aung saying it will remove the layers of middleman, and then you have Mary saying it will empower the smaller agencies. So it's interesting, who's right, who's wrong. So maybe we'll ask the audience, okay? Will Web3 remove the layers of middleman? Can you put up your hand if you agree? Okay, just very few hands, okay. The second one, it will empower the smaller travel players. Okay, more hands, I believe. So people believe that it will empower. I do believe that too. Thank you very much for that participation. I was meant to have a polling, but let's go low tech. Okay, so when you say empower, but you also got to know how to use it, right? So you got to, what advice would you give? What do you think, Aung? How do you define your new value in this value chain?
Well, we are still at a very early stage, but what we see is that today, governments around the world, including our Southeast Asian nations, are setting up standards to transit regardless of which bank customers or SME uses. So SGQR or PromptPay in Thailand are the example of that, that beginning. And they will continue to evolve. And some of the central banks are now doing central bank digital currency, which is also another kind of standard. And I think once we have those standards established, we will be able to hook up to those standards, be it SMEs or businesses or even consumer directly through a platform perhaps. And that will be something we can look forward to in the future.
Right. And you believe that India's UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, which was started in India like 7 years ago,
That's right.
is the gold standard for Southeast Asia, you think?
In my opinion, Southeast Asia will follow very, very similar directions as UPI. Yeah.
And for you, you feel like travel agents have to, because we asked the question like, what will disappear from human job, right, in 5 years? And a lot of the panelists say basically booking and reservations. So travel agents have to evolve from booking and reservation to something else.
Yeah, to something like building communities and creating content and socially interact with the consumers, with the travelers. That's what travel agency needs to do.
Right, and there's lots of tools to enable them to do that. So let's talk about the exit then. This is exit with the founder, a classic example. So in April, Ant Group acquired 2C2P. Not talking about valuation, but it's meant to be one of the biggest deals to be done in Southeast Asia. So what have you done with the money?
Nothing.
Nothing. Buy a plane, another, for your flying. Okay, all right. How will it help 2C2P to grow with a parent like Ant behind you?
Sure. We have been wanting to go beyond our Southeast Asia borders. Today we have our operation across Southeast Asia. We wanted to go beyond Southeast Asia border, expanding into, let's say, Europe. And with this partnership, we will be able to ride on Ant reach globally, and we can provide them with our payment know-how, our payment technology, so that we can accelerate the group growth. So that's what we are doing. And internally also, Ant has a lot of other payment-related assets, be it foreign exchange, business-to-business payment, and we are integrating internally so that we can have a synergetic value between these groups.
Okay. So an exit after, 20 years, almost 20 years of building the business. So no shortcut, 20 years. Okay. So Mary, you've made 2 exits, one of which was to Alibaba. So I know Alibaba and Ant Group are not supposed to be like the same company, right? But what advice would you give Aung in how an entrepreneur deals with a giant parent?
So to be honest, it's my great honor to sit here with Aung. Aung is one of the most humble entrepreneurs I have ever met. So personally, I don't have any advice for you, but I really hope like 2C2P and other big giants company can offer more and more commercial business opportunities to startups like us, like other startups in this meeting room.
Okay. So what advice? She's too humble. You're both too humble. She doesn't have any advice to give you, but I bet you have advice to give her. What advice would you give Mary as she integrates payments into her global platform?
Yeah, maybe, she has been doing this 3 times. This is her 3rd time, so I have to learn more from her. But for payment, I will suggest that be a little bit more open-minded. So there will always be teething problem initially, but once it is set up, then it will run like a clockwork.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to finish off with one word answer. Okay, one word. Word association. When I say Myanmar.
Trouble.
Trouble, okay. When I say China.
Hometown.
Hometown, China.
Prosperity.
Prosperity, okay. New world.
Exciting.
Exciting.
Metaverse.
What?
Metaverse?
Metaverse, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary and Aung. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.